Blessings. Welcome to the Navigating Eternity Winter webinar. So, I want to welcome you if you are here with us live. Please feel free to tap into the chat. If you're catching the replay or the raw play, as we like to say, welcome as well. We're going to have a beautiful presentation today, an introduction to navigating eternity, and it's going to be a little different from some of the other webinars that we've done because today we're actually going to bring in some of the members of the Tehuti militia. So instead of just sharing and reading testimonials, we're just going to actually have a gathering of some of the members who are able to join us today live. So that's going to be great. We'll do that after I go through the presentation. If you're here with us live, please do not be shy. I would love to engage with you in the chat. So if you could put into the chat, if you're here right now live, where you're tuning in from, so that we can all know who's in the house. And I'm excited to introduce you to Navigating Eternity. If Navigating Eternity is not new to you as well, you can let us know that in the chat also. But please feel free to let me know where you're tuning in from. And I'm going to go ahead and get started today. So my intention was to actually use new slides that I created. Unfortunately, still having technical issues on the back end with this software. So I'm going to go ahead and use the OG slides, which is all good because it's pretty much gonna make sure we touch base on everything. So, all right, here we go. So this is just to give us a bird's eye view of what our presentation is going to flow like today. So we're going to spiritualize, which is a huge aspect of navigating eternity. I think if there's anything to take away from this, it is a psycho-spiritual medicine. It is literally to heal our nervous system. It's to orient our psychology, and emphasis on the Ra because that is the solar element. And we're going to talk about that as far as the medicine is concerned, the system of navigating eternity and what it means. But first, I'll introduce myself and I'll introduce the system of navigating eternity, what it is, so you get a sense of what exactly we're going to be getting into and what this whole thing is all about. And we're going to go into some aspects of the medicine. So I'm going to give you some doses of medicine, which are really going to go into just cycles of time, ancient wisdom, which all of this is rooted in. And we're going to talk about the curriculum of navigating eternity, that if you choose to join and actually participate and take the medicine, what you would be learning. And then we'll go into the Djed, which is the accountability community, and that is the group coaching element. So then we'll bring in the members of the Tehuti militia who are able to join us live, and we're gonna just pretty much chat about what actually goes on inside. Welcome, Sister Simone from Denver. Shout out to Sister Simone in the house. I also want to let people know, welcome, Kendall. Glad to have you here. So I want to let people know that Tehuti Ma'at is part of a collective as well, right? So a couple of moons ago, it hasn't even been a year yet, we did a very, very powerful collaboration with the African War College, and that collaboration is known as the Amos Wilson Collective. So everything that is happening right now within Tehuti Ma'at is in collaboration with the African War College. So that's the Amos Wilson Collective. And for those who don't know who Amos Wilson is, I highly recommend that you research this amazing ancestor who's no longer alive with us, but did tremendous works, one of which many people may know, The Blueprint for Black Power, is a really powerful book. I actually have it right here. Let me go ahead and just get with y'all for a second. So this is Nana Amos Wilson's work. Now, if you join the Tehuti militia, you will also be able to be part of the Think Book Club or the Think Tank, right? It's our study group, and we're going to be doing The Falsification of African Consciousness, which is another book by Amos Wilson, and it's a lot thinner, a significantly smaller book. But Nana Amos Wilson, in honor of his legacy, we are uniting our institutions to embody what it is that he laid out in the blueprint for Black Power. So Tehuti is a cooperative institution, and I think that that's the most important thing that is important for people to know, because once you join, it's not that you're just joining some organization. We call Tehuti a revolutionary instrument because it's quite literally something that I've birthed to be an instrument that anyone can play the song of their purpose, right? Through this instrument. So we're co-creating because that's what is necessary at this moment in terms of us creating true liberation. So it's a purpose-driven work. And the reason why we need navigating eternity is because the revolution begins in you. Your ability to operate and organize your own life is the capacity in which you're going to be able to do what you're here to do, right? The way that you're here to serve and to contribute to the resurrection and the restoration of this planet. So, this work is really for people who are mission driven, purpose driven, who have a very high calling and know that they have to really learn how to use their energy not only efficiently, but navigating eternity is about natural efficacy. It's about actually making sure we get to the goal, right? We're trying to make sure that we accomplish the mission. So that's not always in the sense of productivity in the way that we're taught. So, as I said, we're going to get started by spiritualizing, and this is going to be breath. Okay. It's the simplest thing because when it comes to the source of life, the essence, what we call spirit, it is our breath that connects us to all things and all life. And our mastery of our physiology is the true expression of that efficacy, right? Of our ability to actually maximize our energy. So, because most of us, because of our childhood traumatic experiences, different things that happen throughout our lives, we tend to shorten our breath and breathe in our chest, right? Very short, shallow breaths. And what happens when we do that is it creates a lot of anxiety for us because our body is not able to process and balance the necessary amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So you'll notice when someone gets anxious, they'll usually like recommend you have to put a paper bag over your mouth so that you could breathe back in that carbon dioxide. And that speaks to our connection to nature and why carbon dioxide, the symbiotic relationship that we have with the trees and the plant life is so important because it provides us with that balance that we need. That's why going out in nature naturally has so many physiological benefits, right? Because we're getting that exposure to that natural element that we need, that carbon dioxide. So, what we're going to do, and what is a key component of navigating eternity, is what we call breath play. Okay. So, making sure that we're learning how to connect with and deepen our breath is very important. So, today I'm going to teach you one breathing technique that is really, really powerful. And all of the different breathing techniques that you learn and guided meditations that are in navigating eternity are really meant for to be tools that you are able to utilize throughout your life. That's the point. It's not just about having this knowledge information, it's about applying it and utilizing it in your life and making it wisdom, right? So I want to invite everyone who's here with us today to just center yourself in this moment and actually be present. You might be doing something else, washing dishes, whatever it is. Just take a moment to actually just come and be present because that's the key to navigating eternity is to step outside of this idea that we've been given that time is dichotomous, right? It's split into the past, present, and the future. And in the African worldview, our cosmic consciousness, there is only one, right? And the only thing that really exists in eternity is the now. Okay, so we have to learn how to be present in the moment and how to process all of the things that come with that because it's actually not as easy as it sounds, right? When we are present, we have to be with ourselves. We have to feel our emotions and process things that otherwise we may want to escape from. So, in this moment, I want you to just be present here with me. And I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate for a moment. So I'll bring myself back on. I'm gonna just demonstrate the breathing exercise that we're gonna do is gonna be alternating nostril breathing. And the reason why this particular breath practice is so powerful is because it actually balances the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. It's balancing our left and our right hemispheres of our central nervous system. And by creating this balance and this flow, it allows our body to regulate itself. And this reduces stress and anxiety, but it also allows us to begin to deepen our breath so that we're actually giving our body the space and the time that it needs to actually process that oxygen. Because when we have those short, shallow breaths, we're not giving our body enough time to actually process, or enough space, I should say, to process the oxygen. So that's what creates the shortness of breath and the anxiety and stress. So I'm gonna invite you right now, wherever you are, however you're sitting, even if you're standing, to just feel as if you have a thread from your sit bone, from the base of your spine, which is your Djed, all the way up to your crown, right? So we're extending the spine, dropping those shoulders back. And I want to just invite you, you can go ahead and warm up your hands. This is creating that solar energy, right? That friction. And I want to go ahead and invite you to just loosen up your shoulders. This is where we usually keep a lot of our tension, right? And just massage yourself out and just be present with yourself. Begin to be conscious of your breath and don't judge it. Don't try to change it or anything. Just take notice of it. And we're gonna come together. You can go ahead and put your hands wherever you feel comfortable. If you feel like you need to have your hands somewhere, you can put your hands in your heart space, or you can just listen to your own body's intuition. Okay. And I want you to just go ahead and begin to concentrate on bringing that breath that might naturally come up to the chest down into the belly. Okay, so we're just going to take 3 releasing breaths before we do the alternating breathing. So a releasing breath is going to inhale through the nostrils, and we're going to exhale, drop the jaw, and just release the breath out. We're letting out whatever we don't need. We're just clearing out the energy, clearing out the day so we can be fully present with ourselves. We're going to inhale in through the nostrils and hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. Drop that jaw. And I don't want you to be shy. I know that sometimes when it comes to breathing, especially if this is something that you're not used to doing or you haven't done before, trust yourself. Give yourself the space. We're breathing all the time. This is the gift of life, right? Release without holding on to anything, okay? Inhaling in through the nostrils for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. Drop that jaw. Again, we're going to do one final inhale in through the nostrils. Hold it at the top, dropping that jaw. Okay, so that's the releasing breath. You can roll your shoulders back if you need to. We're bringing ourselves to be fully present and we're calming our nervous system. This is really, really important for us to be able to navigate eternity. Remember, it's a holistic medicine. It's not just about the information, it's about our thoughts and all of the other aspects of our body, our physical body that are necessary to integrate this knowledge. Okay. So I want you to go ahead and place your right thumb over your right nostril. And we're going to inhale through the left nostril and exhale through the left nostril. I'm going to switch over. You can put that index finger on the left nostril, inhale through the right nostril. Hold it there and releasing through the right nostril. Again, inhaling on the same side. Hold it at the top. This time we're switching. We're going to exhale on the opposite side. Again, inhale through the left nostril, hold it, and switch. Exhaling through the opposite nostril. One more. Inhale on the same side. Hold it, hold it, and we're switching and releasing on the opposite nostril. Now you can let go. We're breathing on both. Okay. So we just balanced, and this is something that you can do for as long as you need to. But just an exercise to just bring us to be fully present, but balancing both sides of the central nervous system, right? So I want to go ahead and bring slides back up. All right. So Navigating Eternity is an online course. That's how the medicine is disseminated, right? So by going through Navigating Eternity, there's a curriculum that's in the form of an online course that we'll go through. And the most important part is the Djed. The Djed is the accountability community. This is the essence of the medicine, right? The fact that we need one another and how we're able to actually support and connect with one another. And it also allows us the opportunity to actually coach ourselves and exercise how we're actually applying what we're learning to our lives so that we can actually use it and integrate it into our lives. Now, there's other things that are available to you if you want to do one-on-one coaching with me. That's an option. And I'm also doing a alchemy retreat here in Cabo Verde if you want to do in-person work. That is going to be from February 8th to 16th, and I'll share more details about that afterwards. Now, I want to begin with just speaking about the origin of Navigating Eternity, and I'm going to do this briefly because I want to really switch up the way that we approach the presentation today. So in the picture here, you see me. This is back in 2013. This was my first time returning back here to Fogo, to Cabo Verde, and this is what was the catalyst for my personal awakening. And that catalyst was really rooted in land. And this is the most essential part that I think is very important for us all to grasp is the fact that this medicine is a reflection of a natural call to return back to nature. It was the land that awakened my personal consciousness, my attention, and my awareness to the reality of the world that I was in and how I was functioning within it. And in that space, the way that I was directed naturally through life was back to myself, to my own authentic dreams as a child, and remembering who I really was. Because leaving New York and going and coming back here and being on this tiny island and being on a farm and in this rural environment allowed me to actually decompress and process what I was experiencing, question things, right? Because sometimes we're just in the hustle and bustle, and in the capitalist world, it's all about producing. So we feel like we got to go, 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 and we've been sold this hustle mentality, this hustle culture, and we think that that's actually what we want when what we actually want is leisure. When people talk about existing in luxury, that's what that is. So we are caught up in this contradiction where we want something that we're doing the opposite to achieve. So for me, it took stepping outside of the rat race and returning here. And one of the main things that I had remembered was as a child, I used to love to play office. So there was an essence within me that loves to organize. And it awakened this idea, this vision that I had to start creating a planner. And I wanted to create the perfect planner because my mind is very dynamic and I have all these different things that I want to do. And people will always tell me, like, you need to do one thing at a time. And it just didn't feel right with me. So my energy is Tehuti, which most of us know through the Greek as the Gemini energy, very dynamic and expansive and dualistic. So for me to honor my mind and myself, it didn't feel right to go with what everyone else was saying. So I began the process back in 2013 in these images that you see of creating this perfect planner. which has now revolved into navigating eternity. And as I said, the land work was so key because once I went back to the States after being in Cabo Verde for about 9 moons, almost a year, and experiencing this transformation, I immediately felt like, okay, we need to do something with all this knowledge. Like we have to teach people. So we started our Sankofa program, and this is what created Tehuti Ma'at as a revolutionary instrument. We started doing community service work. So I went back to Boston to my hood where I grew up and the community centers that I used to ball at. And I started asking the elders there if I could come and teach the children. And I got opportunities to go ahead and present the Sankofa program with my partner. And from there, in New York, being able to do the work on the ground with a lot of the elders, a lot of the activism work around Black economic empowerment led to the work at the garden. So we have Tehutimat Community Garden, which is our central base in Brooklyn. And that space and the initiative that we operate out of there, Organic Food for the People, is the heart of Tehuti Ma'at, because we have to remember that revolution is based on land. And that's what navigating eternity is really all about. It's about how do we truly successfully accomplish this vision that we have to resurrect and restore ourselves, our people, particularly people of African descent. And we're doing so through ancient African wisdom. And the land is key to that awakening. So me returning back to Africa, to the land of my foremothers and forefathers, was the catalyst for me to remember my soul's mission to do this and start awakening my genetic memory, which has allowed a lot of this knowledge to come through me so that this medicine could be birthed. And back in 2020, which we call year zero, I felt this calling at the end of 2019 really strongly to return back to Kemet, to modern day Egypt. And that was a really significant moment for navigating eternity, because that was the moment that I realized what I was actually creating. Because at the time, I thought I was just building out this planner. And in 2020, well, it was the end of 2019, once I got to Kemet, I realized, what I was being asked to do was to ritually, because I just knew I needed to be there before January 1st, 2020. And particularly to the Great Merkuti, the pyramids of Giza as we know them. And those specific megalithic sites are specifically aligned with the three stars in Asar's belt, which many people know as Orion's belt, the constellation of Orion. And there's so much significance to that, but I just felt the call to ritually reset us into our own time paradigm through ritual and open the way for our time. So from that moment on, when we enter into navigating eternity, we're entering into spirals of time, and we're releasing timelines. We're releasing the program that we've taken on of linear time that has been given to us from this Eurocentric lens because of the Ma'afa that we've experienced, right? The African Holocaust, as it's called. The experience of being stripped away of our ancient knowledge and our ancient wisdom, of our language, of our culture, of our land, is very significant to why we are lost in this moment. But the fact of the matter is, we knew that this would happen. So carved into those Merkuti, into the pyramids, are these ancient prophecies that we're literally manifesting right now. We knew that this moment would come where we would forget our legacy. We knew this moment would come where we would be going through what we called the underworld, right? And that's the experience that we're living right now. And we're now starting to awaken our memory of our ancient knowledge. And while I was in Kemet, It was such a beautiful experience. I just wanna show a couple pictures here as I move through the slides, but it was such a beautiful experience because I was able to actually see firsthand, right, with my own eyes, these symbols, and that in itself awakened so much in me. I had already learned so much from connecting with my spiritual father, Baba Heru, in Brooklyn, and learning so much at the feet of my elder and being directed to different books and raw sources. And Baba Heru would always tell me, just actually do it yourself. Like go to the museums and look at the symbols and write them. And we would go to the museums every weekend, strong end, and we would write down and draw the Meruneta ourselves. And that writing process of just copying what we were seeing was awakening our ability to even translate what was being read. So that's the beauty of us returning to our legacy. It's a symbolic language. And we don't need any intermediaries. We don't need anyone to interpret it for us if we allow ourselves to trust the knowledge and the intelligence of our heart and our mind's eye, our first eye, to interpret the symbols that we're seeing because of what it naturally awakens in our psyche. So that's the goal of what navigating eternity really holds, is to put that wisdom back into our own hands, to release us from spiritual enslavement and feeling as if we have to look for divinity outside of us, that we have to look for validation and confirmation outside of us. It's directing us all back internal. Okay. And I'm not going to talk too much about this, but just in the last year alone, since navigating eternity was birthed publicly, because I've been nurturing this medicine for about 8 years. It's actually going on 9 years now. So last January was the first time that navigating eternity was presented publicly. So once I bring in our family who've been here, some people have actually been going through navigating eternity through the Djed even way before that, because we've been beta testing it and we've been doing groups, and I've aligned so many powerful activists, artists, educators, healers who have this same soul mission to come together to exercise using the medicine, and everyone has put into it and informed it. So it is a living medicine. It's growing with every contribution of each person who becomes a part of it. We are genuinely a cooperative, right? So everything is being co-created as I speak. So in the last year, I've just had so many tremendous experiences. Like the photos on here are just me in Mexico. I got to go for a couple of times and really step into my shamanic path and go through so many different ceremonies, learn from the plant medicines. And it was just, it's literally a manifestation of my embodiment of navigating eternity and the trust that's required for us to actually move in purpose, right? But we have so much we have to shed in order to do that, because it's so against what we're told is the safe way to do things, the right way to do things, right? So ultimately, we have to recognize and remember what time actually is. And time is something that, in two extremes, I like to look at how we're either told through like a lot of the new age spirituality that time is an illusion and that time doesn't exist. And on the other extreme is the density of capitalism and the secular profane world that roots everything in time, and time is value, and literally our ancestors were enslaved and their labor and their time and their energy was the value. They were literally sold, right? So when you think about the extreme of how to this day we see time as money, right? That's another extreme. And what we have to do is come to the center and recognize that time is not an illusion, but time is also not a value metric. Time is a metric of movement. When we look back to the first sundials and the way that we would measure time, it's all based on our revolution around Ra, around the sun. So that's ultimately how we have to root ourselves. So we have to measure time according to our movement again. And I always like to think about this in or tell people to think about this in the context of life. All try to switch over every time you would use time, use the word movement. because it's not a matter of time in terms of anything that we accomplish and we achieve. It's about moving there. If we just wait for the right time and we just sit in waiting, we create stagnancy. But if we move towards what we want to create, the quicker we move, the quicker we get there. The slower we move, the slower we get there. And if we don't move, we don't get there, right? So that's how we have to come back to respect time and recognize that everything starts in spirit, but it takes form in flesh. So the physical experience that we're having is spiritual. So that's part of that integration process that we're having, that holistic worldview, going back to the view of our ancestors of both and letting go of, or learning from, and completing the lesson that we have to learn from the Eurocentric paradigm of splitting and separating things, which is either or, right? Looking at things either this or it's that. It's day or it's night, right? And we have to recognize that it's all connected. So that's how we shift ourselves into eternity. We come back to the center and the awareness and the accountability for our choices and how we choose to move, because that's actually what time is all about. So when we look at our movement around Ra, around the sun, that is the ultimate model we have for revolution. Okay. A lot of us, we use the word revolution, but ideologically, we think in terms of evolution. We think linearly. We don't see things as moving in cycles. And we have to recognize that everything in nature moves in cycles. The plants, the trees, we have seasons, depending on where you are, but there's still movement. Even here, where we don't actually have an official winter, because we have a rain season and we have a shift in the environment, the ecology is what creates the culture, right? And that's why agriculture is foundational, right? Because it's based on the movement and the expression of that movement in the ecology, in the environment, that determines how we're able to navigate our sustenance on this planet, our very survival on the planet. And it's when our ancestors rooted into one place and began actually cultivating the land and farming and gardening, that we were able to actually stay still in one place and move out, revolve from being farmers, from being hunters and gatherers to being farmers and gardeners, so we could observe nature for all the time that it took to create the calendars that we had. There in the temple of Dendera, and the Heteru temple in Dendera has a calendar that's 26,000 years. You know how much time of observation it takes to create a calendar of 26,000 years? So it's also speaking to the importance of stillness, right? Because we're always trying to go, 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 go. And nature has moments of dormancy, right? Things, even when you sow a seed, it has to decay and decompose in order to be reborn. So all of the wisdom and the medicine that created Navigating Eternity is rooted in nature, and particularly inspired by everything that I've learned from farming. So it's no coincidence that across all traditions, as we know, African people have sown the seed of humanity and have spread that seed all over the planet. So any indigenous tradition that you go to in any part of the world is going to be rooted in a nature-based tradition. And the key components that you'll see in those cultures, as far as calendars are concerned, as far as holy days, as far as sacred days, are aligned with our revolution around the sun. So what you see on the screen is showing the process, the cyclical nature of our revolution around the sun and how it affects our daylight. So we just passed through the winter solstice, which was on December 21st. And that was the longest night and the shortest day. So once we move from there, the days begin to extend because the sun has gone from its most southern point and it begins to now move north. and the days begin to lengthen and the nights begin to shorten until we get to the equinox point, which is in March, right? This is our true new year if we align with nature, right? So remember that that is contingent upon the culture and the ecology. I could determine my new year here where I am based on the rain season. That could be my new year. There's As long as we're aligning with nature and we're creating collective agreements, that's what creates the culture and the tone of the people, right? So right now we've been orienting in the winter on January 1st to the new year as a collective, right? So what Navigating Eternity wants to is give you this medicine so we could shift out of that agreement, because that agreement is also the agreement that is enslaving us. Okay? So this is key to our liberation. So when we align with nature in the spring season as our new year, we actually align with and have the support energetically in our endeavors, because everything is awakening at that point, right? Everything's coming out of dormancy if you're in the northern hemisphere. And then from the equinox point, the days continue to extend until the sun reaches its most northern point. And then we have the longest day and the shortest night, and the days begin to shorten and the nights lengthen until we get to a balance again at the autumn equinox. And we have equal day and equal night, but the nights continue to extend until we come right back around to the most southern point where we have the longest night and the shortest day. That's the cycle that we're in. And what I want us to think about symbolically is how this is actually what's happening as far as where we are as humanity and what we wrote and carved into the stone walls in the temples, and why we knew we would be here right now. Because the same way that we're moving through this in a microcosm, on a macrocosm, we're also moving through these cycles. So while we had a golden age where we built pyramids and all these marvels and all this architecture and these temples, we knew that the nights would lengthen, right? That the darkness would spread. And that's the cycle that we are now moving into. The degenerate cycle of humanity has been prophesized. It's part of the process, because we cannot have day without night, right? We cannot have up without down, left without right. So it's part of that divine symmetry of energy and the necessity for both, and in order to recognize the value of the other. If we only had night, we wouldn't value day. If we only had day, we wouldn't value day. If we only had night, then we would have no light. We would have no purpose, right? So all of this creates purpose, and it also creates freedom when we allow ourselves to see that both are necessary and we don't cast judgment on either or, right? We see it for what it is and how they connect to one another. So that is the key. And that's what Navigating Eternity is all about. The wisdom that's written in the stone is the journey of the soul. And this is about remembering the journey that our soul is on, and remembering your soul contract and what you came here to do. And that's what's written in your heart. That's that authentic dream. And that's what we aim to awaken and to teach you how to guide yourself, right? It's just medicine that takes you within yourself to see how to align and actually birth and create what it is that you're here to create, because you chose to be born in this moment. And because you chose to be born in this moment, in this space and time where humanity is going through the most significant transformation that we could imagine, because we're literally going to move out of this winter solstice, right? This expansion of darkness on the planet, and we're going to resurrect and transform that into light. And that's what we're here for. If you're here in this moment, that's what you're called for. And in whatever way you're here to contribute to that, this medicine is here to support you in doing so, by aligning with all of the natural spirits and energies and kingdoms of the planet that want you to do what you're here to do. So I want to also prepare my family that's in the green room to just prepared to come on because we're going to actually co-express what navigating eternity is. And I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to just get ready to come on. But the point of the medicine is you have eternity. And when we feel like we don't have enough time and we need more time, and what is time but movement? And if you were here before and you'll be here again, in the sense of the soul's journey, you have to trust that you're going to do what you came here to do. And in stressing and aligning with other things that have been inculcated in you as far as false dreams and visions, you start moving away from your soul's path. But when we return to the soul's path, we return to that expansive nature of eternity. And we do recognize that everything that ever happened is happening right now. There is no past, present, and future. There's things that are behind you, there's things that are in front of you, but you activate all of that in the now. This is where you have the power, is in this moment to create. But if we're stressing about the past and regret, or if we're worried about the future and what we're going to do next, it's a constant thing. We have to constantly take the medicine, because even though I've literally birthed this medicine, I've been nurturing it for 9 years, I have to constantly remind myself to take the medicine, to relax. I have to breathe. I have to do the exercises. I have to control my thoughts and remember the mantras, right? You have eternity. Like the moment that you're in right now is perfect. All of those things are necessary because everything around us is constantly trying to pull us out of ourselves and to co-opt our power by taking us out of the present moment where we have power. And that main power being our ability to define our reality. And if we use other people's terms to determine our existence and our movement on the planet, and to define that as something linear, and nothing in nature is linear. Everything grows in spirals and cycles. And that's what we have to align with in order to liberate ourselves. So, how are y'all doing, Alexis? And I see Omawali. I don't know if Omawali is going to be able to be on camera, but you good to come in? Can I bring you in, Alexis? All right, so we're going to bring in our sister, Alexis. Welcome.
Blessings.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Grateful to be here.
That's wonderful. Omawali, let me know in the message whenever you're ready to come in, and we can engage you too. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and bring Alexis up a little bit. Can you introduce yourself to the people who are here with us watching?
Sure. My name is Alexis. I am a visual artist. I'm a root worker. I am a writer and a medium. And I'm based here on native Temecula land in Tallahassee, Florida. And I'm here because the ancestors guided me to KhepeRa and navigating eternity around the winter season of 2021. And that was a really important in my journey of coming into deeper embodiment of my connection to the ancestors, and doing a lot of internal work around my personal identity, my worldview, and also my connection to nature. So I discovered Tu'utama'a through the community garden in Brooklyn, and that's how I became involved in healing centers and really spending more time with this community and building in these different spaces that we have.
Good, thanks. By the way, your audio sounds a little muffled. I don't know if it's the way that you have your device, but just letting you know. Because you mentioned something important that I want to know if you can expand on. For people who maybe it's new to them to think about the idea of like connecting with their ancestors, why is that important, and what do you mean by that? for someone who doesn't have that experience yet, doesn't know what you mean by that, can you elaborate on that? Because I think it's such an important aspect of navigating eternity is recognizing the continuum that we're a part of, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I can just start with my personal experience. As a child, I always felt very void of culture and a sense of identity. And I wasn't always conscious of this internal feeling, but it would come up in moments like in the cafeteria at school. My friend would bring a traditional dish that her parents had made, um, that was unique to her culture. And it made me very interested in how we can express ourselves through our lives in these artistic ways. And it also made me question why that wasn't present in my family.
Mm.
And I talked a bit about this as well in my testimony, but I also had a lot of paranormal experiences as a child. I always felt like very tapped into something that the people around me weren't, which caused me to feel very different. And I think that these are all really significant experiences because a lot of us have these types of feelings and experiences that we may not be acknowledging, but the fact that we experience them means that, there's a purpose to that. There's a reason why certain synchronicities in our life are triggering certain thoughts and emotions. And we've been very conditioned in society today into this individualistic mindset where we view ourselves as separate from each other. And it's also created a very great divide when it comes to spirituality and our connection to the natural world in this more illogical, immaterial, um, intangible kind of way. And that resulted in us becoming disconnected from our ancestors and ultimately, this place that we call the afterlife, the place where we go when we transition, when we leave our bodies. It's the same place that, we go when we fall asleep in our dreams. It's the spirit realm, and it's this very vast and intricate network of dimensions and existence that we intersect with and sense and experience all the time in these very subtle ways. And I feel like that's a really important point when it comes to discussing what navigating eternity is as a holistic time management system, because it's not just rooted in our physical circumstances. It's also rooted in this mystical way that we've lived our lives for so long, for literally thousands of years. And over time, we've become progressively disconnected from that state of being.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you shared all of that in your personal experience because I think a lot of people feel, being different, right? And not feeling supported in that, especially people who are aligned with this work because it is so ancient. And I think the other element that's so important about what you lifted is the fact that this is the same space that we go to when we go to sleep. It's the same space that our spirit travels through. And we sometimes conflate spirituality with religion and we can become afraid. Myself personally, I feel like in the beginning of my own awakening experience, I did feel afraid of letting go of the beliefs that I had held onto
Mm,
that I felt like didn't align with the truth that I was learning and experiencing. And some of that is like the finite aspect of like, so we just die. But even in Christianity, it was like, okay, well, if the spirit is eternal, then why can't we remember? Like, then what did the spirit do? Like, where does it go? Like all these questions that couldn't be answered through the limitations that I felt that the religion was creating around me. Whereas I feel like when we turn to our ancient wisdom and our sacred science, it's so expansive that it allows all of it to exist. Whereas religion can compress and limit our ability to process the nature of all that is in existence and not in existence. So
Right.
I want to go ahead and also bring in the rest of the family that's with us here now also. So I'm gonna go ahead. Let's see how we're gonna do this. So we're gonna bring in Omawale, our sister Tanu, welcome, and Danny.
Blessings.
Danny, can you turn up
Blessings.
a little bit so we can see you?
Can I?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you, bro. How are you?
Okay. I'm doing all right. How y'all?
Wonderful.
Grand.
Hey, Danny.
Hi, beautiful.
Hey,
Hi,
Lexi.
Alexis.
Hi, Wale, even though we can't see you.
Yes, hi,
Yeah,
Molly.
pardon. How y'all doing?
It's all good. I'm well. Thank you.
So,
I'm,
do you want to go ahead to?
I
I
can.
for you to introduce yourself. So maybe you could start to new introduce yourself and just like how you got into navigating eternity.
Absolutely. Blessings. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to expand our family and also to deepen our connection with people that are coming in. And really, not just deepen the connection with people that are coming in, but like this aspect of the work is very important because, as it was stated earlier, we are one. We are truly one. My name is Tanu Tom. I'm the artist mommy, and I'm a comedian, actor, dancer, writer, producer. Um, so grateful to be here. I am thinking very much about what eternity means and also juxtaposing that idea with the moment and what now means and what eternity encapsulates and what now encapsulates. And I'm really grateful for this meeting because I have had a very intense shift in consciousness within the past, I would say, like right before the new year began, right after the equinox. And it's caused me to literally shift even the time that I wake up, right? So it's an exciting time for me. I'm being more aware of every moment, every culmination of now, and how that influences the systems around me as well as the people around me that I am growing and the people around me that are growing me. So that's me. My name is Tanu again. And when did I begin navigating eternity? I don't know. All I remember is Neff coming over to the house and being like, I'm making this calendar. And like the thing that was so beautiful about her making this calendar was that she was able to include elements that I'm like, oh, of course my period matters when I'm working on a personal project, or, oh, of course I'm gonna include these aspects of myself. And she had techniques of making sure that they were present, but also maybe that's not what you were focused on. I'm an initiated woman also through Queen Afua. And so one of the things that Queen Afua talks about is the energy of specific days, right? And so how do I come to a Tuesday with Friday energy, right? And the fact that Neff had the mental capability and the spiritual equanimity and the mental fortitude to put these ideals in one space, and it's been a pleasure, an honor to watch this baby be born, I guess, for lack of a better term. Navigating eternity has blessed my life in ways that I believe that it's helped me have so much confidence in my purpose side, my multiple purposes. And we are we are dynamic people. We're not like I am one thing. Our society would like us to believe that, you go to work and that's crumbling down, but we are so very dynamic, and so it's been an honor and a pleasure to uh, have my dynamicism reflected back to me through the system, but also, even more importantly, through my brothers and sisters, some of which are here that I know got a lot more to say to me. So I'm gonna pass the mic.
I appreciate your words, and I didn't even process it and think about it in that way, but it's like it's been such a pleasure for me to put it all together, because I think that that's the essence of me. And I was actually speaking with Danny earlier today, and we were talking about this shift that I have in my consciousness, because I've actually shifted my natal birth time. So for those who are not familiar with the astrology, there's something that's usually called a natal chart. It's your birth chart. It's literally the map of the heavens when you were born. This is essential for navigating eternity. So as we get into the medicine, like those are the layers that are more advanced, I would say. We teach about the African origins of the zodiac. As I mentioned, there's a temple in modern day Egypt known as the Temple of Dendera. It's the Temple of Heteru. And that energy is the energy that we commonly know as the Roman interpretation of the energy, which is called Venus, the planet, right? The energy sphere of Venus is Heteru. And the Temple of Heteru has all of this astrological symbolism carved into stone, and some of it has been removed and put into museums, but so much of it is still there and bright and beautiful and like literally brilliant and blue. And it was so interesting being there, because I was able to see the origins of everything that we've been taught from a Eurocentric perspective. So Danny and I have been working on the extension of Navigating Eternity, which is the Kemetic zodiac. So it aligns us with all of the energy spheres, the planets, the constellations from an African Kemetic ancient perspective, and also making it whole again, right? So we're not looking at that linear as well. So we're seeing it as a whole 360-degree energy that influences all of us. It doesn't matter where the sun was when you were born. It emphasizes certain energies, but you still have all of the energy in you, and all of the energy is in us. It's not external to us. So that being said, I recently shifted my natal rising sign. So the sign that was the constellation that was on the eastern horizon when I was born. And because I've been shifting that, it's made me aware of my own embodiment of this energy, and like why I was striving to synthesize all this information. Like what you said, you learned from Queen of and how that's in the helm. The helm is how you look at the entire 7 days and what energy influences and governs each day, so you can actually schedule your life based on the energy of the day. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. But I also want to go ahead and allow everyone else to introduce themselves. So I also wanted to let y'all see that Kendall says he misses y'all. So Kendall's also been in the Djed. We miss you too, Kendall. So I trust you're coming back to us. And rotten rolling. So Danny, can you introduce yourself? And then, or Mawali, I don't know if you're ready, because you're like, we can't see you, so I don't know.
I'm here. Um,
Are you
I
okay?
can. Yeah, I'm good. I can go after Danny.
Okay. Go ahead, Danny.
Blessings. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. I don't necessarily remember exactly when I started navigating eternity, but I knew that it was an essential time, because my relationship with time has always been something that wasn't conventional and definitely needed work. like showing up on time and juggling between all of my interests has always been something that I've needed assistance with. And I never thought that community could be a medicine for something like that. Um, so I remember last spring we were in our Djed, and there was a pivotal moment to lift what Tanu said about all of us being one and why the system is so important to experience together. There was a moment where we were talking about Mercury retrograde and just all of our different experiences of the transit shifts and how it's impacting our passions and the way we were able to engage with life and engage with each other and what energy we actually had to offer to our task. And we literally all were having a similar experience, but from so many different lenses. And that I feel like opened me up to the reality of how essential it is to have people in your corner that are also motivated to accomplish from a place that's authentic, like in alignment with the energy spheres, but how we're personally experiencing them. And that's my favorite takeaway of navigating eternity, just like the way we can keep each other in check by sharing what we're personally experiencing in our lives and the way things are impacting us internally and what we're able to actually do outside of the pressures of like accomplishment, but
Yeah.
still accomplishing.
Yeah, and I think that what we always see in the Djed is how we're reflecting each other and we're really not alone, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
like really like the strong connections that we've been able to make with each other. And some of us have never even met each other yet in the flesh, you know?
Right.
So it's a really beautiful thing. So shout out to Sister Ma'at, who's in the house also. Welcome. And I want to add our brother Rob. Yay. Welcome. How are you?
Hey everyone, good evening. Sorry, my mic was out and I just had class. And you know what happens when I teach class. So, for those that don't know, I do African martial arts and we teach here locally and online. And it's always energized, there's always a lot of energy. And after every class, you know, because I expend so much energy and so much of myself into the youth, into the kids, that I sound like this. So, glad to
Well,
be
good
here though.
to catch your heal your throat a little bit. Brother
Yeah.
Mawali is going to introduce himself, but I also wanted to shout out Brother Rob because he's also one of the members of the Sudimat militia that's leading our warrior workouts. So every last Sunday, when you join Navigating Eternity, because you become a member of the Galaxy rank of the Tehutimat militia. So that's what this is all about, is being a part of this militia to co-create these instruments and these institutions that we need cooperatively, right? So that we're supporting one another and that each person's vision is also able to be birthed from a cooperative space where we're each watering each other's gift and vision and mission. So seeing Brother Rob doing the African martial arts and we've been able to integrate that into the warrior workouts, that's something you'll be able to experience every last Sunday. So if you join Navigating Eternity in the Djed for the winter, January, February, and March, you'll be able to do the African martial arts with Brother Rob. So, Wale, you got
Hey,
the
peace, peace. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be on camera, y'all. I wanted to say peace to everybody who I'm on this virtual stage with. So shout out to my sister Neff, shout out to Tanu, sister Alexis, sister Danny, and brother Rob, and shout out to everybody who is watching and or listening right now. I just want to apologize in advance. I just put my daughter into the tub, so I just snuck away. I can't really get on camera because I'm winding the house down at the moment. But I wanted to really just come forth and offer, I guess, in real time, what navigating eternity has meant for me and has offered me, and what I think that it has the ability to offer those of you who are interested and who are curious. So I first I came in contact with Neff, I feel like in 2020 or maybe in 2021. But it may have been, I think I came in contact with Neff in the summer of 2021. And it was at a time where I feel like my life is always pretty chaotic. I always got a lot of things going in a lot of different directions. And there was something that I wanted to pour my energy into, but I couldn't find kind of like the direction and or the focus to do it. So something in my spirit told me to reach out to Neff, to see if she would be able to offer any support in this regard, or with this particular effort that I was pursuing at the time. And she let me know, like, hey, it's funny that you hit me up. I'm actually about to launch this accountability. Did you call it accountability management? I forget exactly what you called it at the time, but it was essentially something to offer accountability and support and a way for me to manage my time in a way that was more in alignment with the natural cycles around me. So I wouldn't be going against the flow. The flow would be supportive of everything that I was doing. So I tapped in and I went through that first Djed. I feel like that was in 2021, or maybe I don't know now. Was it in 2021 or 2022? I'm losing track of time here. That's funny.
Was
I was. I'm
2021 because I think you did a Djed before the Djed became public.
got you. So I did a private Djed in 20. See, I did an exclusive Djed in 2021, and then I came back around this year. I was in the Djed in this past spring. It was right around the time when my brother kind of passed away, when we were coming to the end of that particular Djed. But what this space has offered me, if I'm being real, it's offered me a system to manage and organize and direct my own energy. Um, a lot of us, when we come into this form, right, into this physical vessel, some way, like we lose touch. We lose touch with all that we are and all that life has to offer us. And what this system does, or what it has done for me, is it's supported me in regaining touch with who I am and with the energy around me, and connecting me back to the source that I was one with before I got here, that I'll be one with after I leave here, and that I'm one with right now. So it's allowed me to be a bit more sensitive or attuned to the energy that is within me and the energy that is all around me. And as a spiritual being, right, someone who uh, has a level of consciousness in terms of understanding like who I am as a being, or who I am as energy, like none of us has all the answers. But what this space provided me was an opportunity to connect with others who were learning and growing and awakening and developing. And this space became a support for me, right? It became a network to teach me things that I didn't know, to support me through like my ups and through my downs, right? So it's been a very significant journey, and it's been something that has really shifted and or altered my lens and ways that are really hard for me um, to recount. So much so that every time, like I say, like I feel like I don't have enough time, I always feel convicted as soon as I say it, because Neff always reminds us that like we have all the time that we need, right? Because we're navigating eternity, right? So what this space has done for me in a Kari shell, as Neff says, is it has pulled me back into the moment, like where I need to be, like in this very moment right here. Like I'm not living in the future. I'm not living in the past. Like I'm fully alive and fully one with time. So I don't know, Neff. I told you, like I'm just like settling my energy from a very long day, but I think that's what was on my heart, so that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm so thankful, and we really appreciate you showing up Even though you've had a long day. I've also had a long day. It's actually 1 a.m. here.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know.
Right before I was just like, oh, I'm actually really tired. I wish I got a nap in.
Yeah.
um,
Can I lift up really quick?
yeah.
Neff, I want to just lift up a rising power to Mama Mashariki Jawanza. I don't know if you remember Mama Mashariki, Neff. Um, did a couple of lives with her over the years, but she made her transition
Wow, I
on the
didn't.
first of January. So that one hit pretty hard. So for those of you who know Mama Mashariki, she's an ancestor now. So
Oh,
just wanted to
shit.
make sure I lift up her name because this is the first time I've used my voice in one of these digital spaces in some time. So
I said thank you. I did not know she transitioned. So we're
mhm.
absolutely sending the spirit as it's in transition. In our tradition here in Cabo Verde, we honor the spirit for the first 30 days in its transition out of the dense realm. So that's why we mourn, we cry, we celebrate, right? All of that energy that we give to the dead during that period to support the spirit in transition, right? Speaking of everything we're talking about with navigating eternity. So sending her spirit love and strength in its transition. And I also thought about when you said that, Omawali, how, like we have all the time that we need. And I think that that's what we have to, that we have to learn to embrace the feminine aspects. Because when I say that we're in that like winter solstice period, we know that we're in an expression of humanity that's hyper active, which means it's hyper masculine, which is why we're in these patriarchal structures and institutions that are coming apart. So we have to honor more of the feminine, which is receptive. So we have to be in more of that surrendered state and trust of life in order to navigate eternity, to be with the flow of the current of where the energy is going. And the other part of navigating eternity and the Tehutimat militia is this is Ella Baker's vision of a leader full movement, right? It's we're all leaders. Everyone who's here is building their own institutions. This is designed to be a constellation of stars, and we're all shining in our own right. Yet we're forming a beautiful constellation together. And I think that that aspect of our star system is really important for people to recognize, because as we're moving as leaders, we have to embody more of that feminine energy to come to that ma'at, that equinox point, and that balance, right, of both masculine and feminine energy. So we have to surrender and trust, like we have all the time that we need, which means if you're trying to do more than you can do, that's out of alignment with what life is putting on your plate. So that's when it's necessary to sit back and evaluate, what is my life showing me that I need to do, as opposed to what am I trying to force, right? So with navigating eternity, it's natural efficiency because you're floating with the current. You're not swimming upstream, which, as we know, will exhaust your energy because you're going against the current. So I just wanted to express that as an aspect of the medicine in terms of like how you actually have to like exercise it within your psyche and then apply it to your life. Because I think with Omawali, one of the things that happened a lot was like letting go of a lot of things, taking a lot of things off your plate because you're so busy, right? You were doing so much. So that surrender process is really important. So thank you. Um, so Rob, I guess you already introduced yourself briefly. Is there anything that you want to share that's on your spirit?
Uh, no, thank you, Sister Neff, for that opportunity. I don't know what the original question was. I kind of came in kind of late, so I don't know if there was a prompt or anything that everyone's responding to. But it sounds like just in regards to navigating eternity, I think I signed up for the Djed about a year ago, and the end of 22, right, and then carried on into last year as well. And it's just been, for me, the biggest thing is finding a place where you can connect, right, in terms of African spirituality. And if those that are watching and listening, right, if you have an interest in learning our story, right, our ancestry, our history, and our spirituality particularly, there's not many places where you can go, right? And so for me, it was about where do I go, where do I connect and plug in? Because it's not like you can just go to a place on the corner, and learn about this stuff, right? You just can't. And so having folks that you can connect with, that really has been the biggest thing for me. And really my life has changed really as a result. I mean, I'm doing so many different things now that really impact not just in my lifetime, but for me, my emphasis is on making impact beyond my lifetime and building something. Neff mentioned building institutions, building something that will outlive my natural life, because we are navigating eternity. So it's kind of the biggest
Yeah,
thing for me.
we're building for eternity.
That's right.
And that can't be a rushed process, and I think that that's the beautiful thing is like we see how we water each other's work or play, as you would say, right? And just actually having fun with what we're creating and recognizing that to move out of this paradigm, this capitalist paradigm that we're in, we have to create cooperative institutions. And that's what not navigating eternity alone, but Tehuti Ma'at offers as a foundational support mechanism is organizational systems and structure, and navigating eternity is the primary one. So I just wanted to express that, and then I wanted to put on here because you did mention so the militia benefits. So when you join Navigating Eternity and you're part of the Djed, you basically your complimentary access to the Tehutimat militia, but you're going through Navigating Eternity as an initiation process, right? So once you come through Navigating Eternity, you're an official member and you can contribute to the cooperatives. But in the meantime, you still have access to all our ARC. So I mentioned earlier in the stream how we have the collaboration between the African War College and Tehuti Ma'at, which is the Amos Wilson Collective. And the Amos Wilson Collective is the space we've co-created is the ARC, the African Rehabilitation Center, and that's our private server. So you get access to the ARC by being a member of the militia. And that's our community space where we share different things. We host some of the events on there. Our monthly healing cipher is on there, the Intuit cipher. We also have our warrior workout, as I mentioned, which is the last Sunday of each month. And the last Saturday of each month, we have Community Connect, where we can actually get together and build and figure out how are we constructing this arc. So people who are coming in at this phase of the journey are coming in to be part of that building process. Like we're quite literally constructing on a solid organizational foundation, but there's so much more to build and develop because it literally is an arc. Like we know the flood is coming and we're aware of the energy. And as I said before, we're leading the way for others. So there's a lot of preparation work that has to be done. And having that community of warriors who are all now here for this space is really significant. But the holistic healing support is foundational also because we're going through a lot. Brother Omawali mentioned his brother transitioning. That's a very important mourning and healing process, right? So to be supported in things like that even. But all of us have a lot of trauma and things, that baggage that we're carrying, a lot of ancestral healing that we're doing for our lineage, for our bloodline, and for our soul family. And then we have collective accountability by being able to come together, and you have someone else that's making you accountable to your word and what you said you were going to do and supporting you in that, lifting you to accountability. We don't see accountability as something that's boggling us down. We see it as something that we're lifting each other into. And the sacred ancestral wisdom, as Brother Rob said, there's no greater gift than actually being able to learn the sacred science and apply it to your life, because it is so liberating in terms of giving you the power to actually orchestrate your reality. So I just wanted to share that. And if you all have anything else that you want to add, I want you to feel free to share anything in this moment. But I did see a message here from Pharaoh Mac. I was just talking about watering and sustaining. Hotep, Brother Pharaoh Mac. I'm so glad that that he joined also, because we're also going to be working on a really great collaboration with the farmland that he has. So I'm really looking forward to that and bringing him into the Djed and us extending our mission for organic food for the people and actually coming to the next stage of development and actually embodying what it is, um, what's meant for, right? Which is feeding the people and creating a sovereign food network. So by becoming part of the militia, you're also part of building this community driven service work. I don't know if anyone has anything that they can share about that aspect of things, because I think that that's an important thing that's unique to other spaces, because I think there's other places that are doing like group work and accountability community and coming together. But I think the central piece of our work, because it is service based, is something that is unique. So I was wondering if anyone felt like they had anything to share about that element.
I'll speak on that briefly. I think that the beauty of that is we are not only dealing with having an ancestral legacy of being bought and sold, right? But that ancestral legacy still lives inside of the sustenance of the general population, right? People kind of have this feeling of, I have to go to work. You know, I've heard my friends or some people refer to their job as, I'm headed to the plantation. Like, if we just think about what that actually, what you're actually saying, I am a slave. I almost feel like I just cursed myself out, even saying it out my mouth, you know, in this moment. I am free. Um, it's very important that we have a clear idea of what freedom is, what it actually is. And freedom is the ability to serve, right? The ability to serve within our full purpose. That's freedom. Um, Nina Simone says freedom is no fear, right? And so I like to tertiate the idea of the plantation or or having to work with the ability to serve without fear, the ability to live fully in our purpose eye without fear. What does that look like? What would the world be when our children know who they are because they know their birth charts, they know what they've been nurtured to do, they know how they've been held accountable in community, and they're just doing their work. And that's when their work is play, because it's literally what they are here, you know, what we are here to do. Um, and so that vision is something that I hold very near and dear. And I tie that to service because, you know, money has been idolized. I'll say that. And we know for a fact, because of our many, many, many ancestors, that we don't need, um, we need each other to survive. We need the earth to survive. And we're thriving. We can thrive without money, and we've also thrived a lot with it, you know. And so it's not the pinnacle, the be all end all, and that's what gives us the freedom to give our service in love and in our purpose. And so the way I serve is not going to be the way Rob serves. The way Neff serves is not going to be the way Alexis serves. The way Omawale serves is not going to be the way Danny serves. But I'm gonna remind Omawale to laugh, and Danny's gonna remind me that my Mercury's in the sixth house, so calm down. You know, so hold that. You know, so the ways that we know one another are um, intimate in the most powerful, meaningful ways. Because honestly, we all got friends. You know, we've all cultivated relationships. And I'll say that the power of being able to cultivate relationships that they know you and what you're really going for, and they believe in you because of what you said you are and what they see inside of you, because of freedom, because we know we're supposed to be free. Ain't nothing like that. Ain't nothing like that. Ain't nothing like that. And I promise you don't got that in your life. And so I don't do shit I don't believe in. I don't do things that I don't believe in. And there's many people that do, and so I'm saying all this to say, you here, you blessed, highly favored, because you're rocking with the best. So I think it's important to, in this moment, whoever is present is here for a reason. And I think that it's very important that if there is a challenge of wait, maybe like what is it that is holding me from like doing this, right? For me, I know that the challenges that are holding me are not about the thing that's being presented to me. They're about self, right? And many times we may have challenges that we're conscious of and challenges that we're unconscious of. So I implore you to take a time with yourself, reach out to any one of us, to Neff, and or to anyone that you feel comfortable with, and speak on what may be a hindrance if that's where you are. We've been on here for almost an hour and a half, some of us less than that. But I really wanted to say that because I think that it's very important. I think that it's very important. And I think it's time for freedom. And I think that we're all clear that this is done. And so let's take our position. Time.
Yes, it's freedom time.
Yes.
Thank you
Grateful.
so much for sharing all of that. I feel like, so when you said the thing about freedom, first of all, yes, it's freedom time. And even what you just said about like the relationships we're cultivating, they're so important because we're talking about soul-based relationships. Like the depth of the relationships that we have and the amount of time that we've known each other is unfathomable to people. It's just like it's such a deep connection. It's like, oh, I thought you'd known each other for years. It's like, oh no, I just just met her. But it's that soul recognition and that like it's so powerful. And to me, what's so amazing about the whole thing is like a lot of it is virtual. So to me, it's almost like, wow, that's because I had my doubts about about doing things virtually. And I think it just speaks to the transcendence of our spirit, because it's just a conduit that's connecting the ethers, right? So you said freedom, and I realized I did not mention spiritual warriorship, which is the foundation that Tehuti Ma'a is built on. And the 5 forces of spiritual warriorship are love, light, leadership, power, and freedom. And we define freedom as the flexible expression of the flexible expression of the healed inner voice, right? And that healing process is essential for us too, because we're built, Tehuti Ma'at as an instrument is built on spiritual warriorship, but it also has its own 5 forces, which are revolution based. And we define revolution as healing, liberation, restoration, elevation, and expansion, because we're extending beyond our universal call of love, light, leadership, power, and freedom to the call of the moment, right? The call of the time, which is we need to heal. We need to heal. We need to liberate ourselves. We need to restore ourselves and the planet, right? So we got work to do. So if you're ready to get to work, well, play, right? You're ready to have fun with us, then that's what this is about. So I wanted to just lift that. And then shout outs to Brother Jabril, who's also part of the Djed, and I'm hoping is gonna rot and roll in the militia. Amos Wilson Collective Building. Look at God. Bibi Fahudie, bro. Glad to have you. And our brother Jadorian, who's also already enrolled in the Djed for the first time. So I'm excited to have him on as well. And yeah, I don't know if someone else wanted to say anything.
Neff, I just wanted to add for the folks that are kind of like me who may not can't even spell Tehuti Ma'at. You know, like when I first joined, like I couldn't even spell that, and I tell people about it, like, "Oh, how do you spell that? You know, what's the website?" And so, like, you don't have to know a lot. You may not know a lot of the terms. Like, I still don't know a lot of the terminology or things like that. I just don't want people to get hung up on, you know, terminology or things like that. It's really just about connecting. And I think spirit transcends, you know, the words that we use, you know, and so um, don't be shy about, you know, don't let that scare you, right? So I just want
Yeah.
to put that out there just for folks who may not like, because I'm still like astrology stuff like that. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? But all I know is like I resonate, I'm getting healed, and like I'm seeing things manifest in my life that are making an impact in my community. So just want to put that out there.
Give thanks. That was very well said. I'm so glad that you said that. And because you said that, I am going to put this slide back up because I want to make sure that people do know what Tehuti Ma'a is. And simply put, before I even do that, simply put, Tehuti is your mind, Ma'at is your heart. And this is the synthesis of making sure that that spiral, that figure eight of eternity is cycling between your mind and your heart because you don't have to choose between the two. We need to use both. And that's the nature of the complementary energy that Tehuti Ma'at represents. Now, the instrument, right, this organization, we call it an instrument, is called Tehuti Ma'at because what we're doing is we're crystallizing, we're bringing down cosmic energy and principles, and we're embodying them, and we're making sure that we're moving within alignment with those principles and values. And Tehuti is symbolized in the ancient sacred science by, usually people see it with a mask, a masculine form, a male body with a mask of an ibis bird or an ibis bird. And that bird looks like how it's signing a signature, and it's representing that quality of Tehuti, which is the scribe, the expression, right? The mind and wisdom, thought, knowledge, all of that. But in our sacred science, there's always a complementary energy. So for each masculine energy, there's always a feminine. The feminine always has the complement of the masculine. And that's how the energy represents itself. That's also significant to the stars because there's a sacred proverb, an African proverb that is really powerful and significant when it comes, especially because you mentioned the astrology. We don't have to necessarily fully comprehend it, but we are still star stuff, you know. And even Carl Sagan said it, right? One of the most notarized, you know, in the Western world, notarized astronomist, cosmologist. And he said we're star stuff because we're literally made up of what the stars are made up of. The iron that is literally creating our heart, which is like the sun of the solar system of our body, is the same iron that was at the beginning of what they call the Big Bang, right? The beginning of existence. So quite literally, we are made up of the same particles and elements that the universe is made up of. So ancestrally, we said, as above, so below. And that was the law of consubstantiation. And that's what Tehuti also represents, is Tehuti is universal law. And Ma'at is the balance to Tehuti. Ma'at is represented by the ostrich feather. And Ma'at represents cosmic order. So to balance universal law, there's cosmic order. And that's what brings everything into existence cosmically. So we're talking about coming back to that, right? That's the balance that we say we're coming back to. So you literally see on the screen here the scales of Ma'at on the left-hand side, which some people may have never seen before, but this is part of the sacred text. Ancestrally, we always had, well, when the way we have like a Bible today or a Torah and like these texts, in ancient times, the Pertemru, which is the book that this is in, it's, and the Pertemru means the book of coming forth from night to day. each person who was able to commission their own personalized book. That's like you having your own personal Bible. So it was very personalized to that particular person's soul journey, and the journey to make sure that their heart was balanced with Ma'at. So Ma'at also represents justice, right? That's why when you see in the halls of injustice in the Western world, you always see the scales and you see Lady Justice. This is all built on Ma'at and the symbolism of our ancestors, even though they made her blind, we know, because there's no justice. But Ma'at as truth, as true justice, represents balance, reciprocity, right? Giving and receiving in equal measure. Ma'at represents synthesis, complementarity, wholeness. So where Tehuti represents the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, Ma'at represents the heart, which is just one space, and how the heart, the science of the heart and how the heart functions. So all of it is literally science. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been programmed and taught that these are gods and goddesses, and they're taught it in a religious context, in a Eurocentric linear context. So that's what we aim to make sure that we learn the truth of our ancient legacy and the scientific element of it. And we do so in private because it is sacred. So I think that that's also the benefit for me personally as a sacred wisdom keeper, is to have the space where I know I can trust and share and remind you all of these sacred concepts and principles and how we can apply them to our lives. So I know Omawali is going to have to go. So I was just wondering, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on anything in particular. I know, Alexis, I wanted you to speak on something that you were pretty passionate about. And Tanu had mentioned at one point the value of, you know, what we have here and what we're building. And, you know, it is priceless. But the fact of the matter is we have a price on enrollment, right, to join the militia. So if you want to go on the page, I just want to put it up on navigatingeternity.com. It'll lead you to the teachable page where you would actually be able to bulk get all of the things that come along with navigating eternity. You're going to do the group coaching sessions with us. And I'll just put on what that includes. Because while going through the course, which goes over the specific elements of navigating eternity, like how you create your map, right? The vision boards and all the different things that you can create based on these cosmic principles, but specifically what's on your heart and in your soul to create in this life, right? And then the compass, which is how you're going to navigate the space. Learning, as Tanu had mentioned earlier, the helm, which is literally the of the ship that you hold and your steering wheel. That's looking at your 7 days and looking at the energies of each day and aligning with that. So all of that is part of the medicine itself, and you'll go through that in the curriculum in the course, and we'll also go through that together in the Djed. But the Djed is when we come together based on our community agreements and we establish accountability. The main piece that you're accountable to is just showing up. And you're committing to one season. So that's 3 moons or 3 months. So January, February, and March. The Djed begins this coming strong, which is January 7th through January 13th. So it'll be one session during that. So we have one Djed that's scheduled on Sunday, but we're scheduling another Djed. So if you do sign up, you'll get the doodle. You'll be able to put in your availability, and we pick the availability that works for everyone. And there's 6 group sessions total because we're doing the sessions every other strong, right? So we, instead of week, we say strong, right? So there's some language dynamics also that I didn't necessarily go over, but once you get into navigating eternity and get on the course, the first thing in the introduction is the glossary. So you'll actually be able to see the parts of navigating eternity because it's inspired by nautical terms, because it's literally you journeying in the ocean of eternity in your vessel, and you're the captain of your ship. So you learn all the different parts of the boat that are symbolized in the medicine of navigating eternity so that you can create the elements that you need to organize your life, right? And we'll be doing that together. So the sessions at minimum are 90 minutes. We try to keep it at that 90-minute mark, but sometimes things do go over because we are navigating eternity. So we try not to be so fixated on time, but we have to learn to honor time, right? So that's a key component of what we're exercising, is to be on time, right? And all of that you get on the course and everything. It's on navigatingeternity.com. But I wanted you to speak on it, Alexis, the value piece, because I know that a lot of people do get uncomfortable when it comes to the money piece, because we're in different places. And I think that it's important for people to also recognize that Tehuti Ma'at, one of the main ways that we engage and make sure that we're not limited by the paradigm of money, because that is a main component of enslaving us,
Mhm.
is we do energy exchanges also. So can you speak on that a little bit, Alexis? And honestly, anyone else who might want to add anything, feel free.
Yeah, so from my experience, money can be a major barrier. I feel like we carry a lot of baggage and insecurities about the amount of money that we have and how we connect that to our sense of self-worth and our value. And personally, for me, like in my ancestral healing journey, especially in pursuing education of herbal medicine and looking for opportunities where I can learn the tradition of my ancestors in a more structured and formal environment, money definitely plays a major role in what we have access to, and that's why a lot of cooperative organizations and movements have incorporated things like payment plans and sliding scales that are rooted in ancestral reparations and simply what we're owed and how much value we truly have. And so a large part of this work that we do in reorienting back into our ancestral ways is understanding value in a holistic sense, that it's not directly connected to money. It's not necessarily defined by money, but more so the gifts that we have and what we're able to offer, and each of our unique visions and how we can contribute to each other. So it is communal in that way that our ancestors practice economics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have so much more value to offer the world than money, right? We recognize that, but also coming in a space of balance as well, because what a lot of people may not know is that Tehuti Ma'at has been around for 9 years, and probably for the first 7 to 8 years, pretty much everything was done for free. And we've tried to implement different models to create sustainability, because we do need money to invest, to expand, and to build and to create. So the membership model is significant because we're building together. So it does also create a form of accountability for us as well, because the collective value system is based on money. We use money to buy food. We use money for every other exchange of energy as well. So it's about making sure that it's a balanced approach, but it's not about the money. The work itself is not about the money. So I never want that to be something that is limiting people from accessing the medicine. So I just wanted to make sure people were clear on that. And then if anyone has any questions before we close out, please make sure that you pop them in, because there may be some elements that weren't covered here. I do want to shout out Teriona, who says, "Greetings all. I've enjoyed hearing everyone share their experiences. Much love." Blessings, Teriona, who I'm hoping is also going to be joining the Djed with us. So the Djed is the symbol that you see on the screen on the right-hand side. It's an ancient symbol in Medu Neter, which is the divine symbolism, divine speech of our ancestors, the symbolic language that most people know as the hieroglyphs. And the Djed is a symbol of the divine masculine, and the Tiet is the opposite symbol of the divine feminine. So as Tanu had briefly mentioned before, there's an aspect of navigating eternity that's in development, that's being birthed called the Djed, which honors the divine feminine and the way that our menstrual cycle also affects the way that we navigate eternity and literally our physical bodies, our energy, and how we can use navigating eternity to also schedule and plan and organize our lives based on our rhythm of our moon cycle, of the womb's moon cycle, because we're already aligning with the lunar cycles of the moon to inform things. So you'll learn all of that within the course so that you can organize your life in alignment with the flow of the energy. And the moon is the main pulse of energy. But the masculine aspect of it is what we call the Djed, because the Djed is a column. And in the Navy, the term column is used for a fleet of ships that are moving in one direction on one mission, right? So when I said we're all in our vessels and we're the captain of our ships, when we come together in the Djed, which I've done a lot of research to determine, what's the most optimal amount of people to have in a group. So the Djed is between 6 minimum and the maximum is 11 people. And the ideal number for your Djed is 8. So if you are someone who may want to do navigating eternity with your organization, if you have your own business and you want to do navigating eternity, you can also do the course of navigating eternity and go through and create your own Djed with your group, right? Using the information that's in the course and creating your own accountability community, because you're creating your own fleet of vessels that are on the same mission. So that's essentially what we're doing with navigating eternity, right? We're coming together and we're amplifying our assets, because when we come together and we have that unity, we're not only building on our own strengths, we're building on the strengths of everyone else who shows up. So now I have the strengths of Alexis, of Danny, of Rob, of Tanu, right? And the resources that we're sharing amongst each other, and the opportunities that we're able to offer one another. And that's really the beautiful thing about being able to come together for the Djed. So the call to action is really for you to join the militia, because the Djed is your way of being part of co-creating revolution through your particular soul purpose and mission in this life. So the militia is the organized force that we're raising from the ranks of the people to be of support, service, and protection, because we know those of us who are called to this space and this work are leaders and are here to lead others. And it's essential that we know that healed leadership in the context of spiritual warriorship means we have to embody the principles and the things that the planet is moving towards to restore itself, right? That integrity, which is Ma'at. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And if you have any final words that you want to say in closing, please go ahead and share or just say goodbye to everyone. And I want to thank everybody who's here watching. If you have any questions, I didn't see any questions in the comments, so. All good? All right.
Thank you so much, Nav. Thank you guys. So good to see you all.
Yes, peace, family.
Yeah.
Yes, have a good night.
Questions, you can email grow@tehutima.org, or you can text 646-883-MAAT. Thank you. Great night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Good night. Bye.